The remains of Mark sat on the edge of his bed, staring at the wall. It had been 22 days since he left the battlefield on Europa's third moon, but the images had not left his mind. He still saw her face, still heard her voice, still remembered. The sound of her scream. Leela was not just a fellow soldier, she was more. They had trained together, fought side by side, survived missions others didn't. They never said the word love, not out loud. But it was there in every glance, every shared silence, and every promise to come back alive. They had gone out on a recon mission together, just a scan of the northern ice field. It was supposed to be safe. But something had changed. The enemy had brought new machines, machines that tore human bodies apart. Not just to kill, but to copy, to learn from the brain, to turn memories into code. The last time Mark saw her, she was screaming as two spider-like drones pulled her into a steel cube. The metal walls slammed shut before he could reach her. He shot at them until his gun overheated, but they were already gone. Later, when command sent him to recover what they could, he found only her helmet, a patch of cloth, and a broken dog tag with her name. That night he stopped sleeping. He tried, but each time his eyes closed, he heard her voice calling him. Not soft, not gentle screaming. At first he thought it was guilt. He had survived. She hadn't. Maybe his brain was trying to punish him. But then things started to get strange. His bunk lights flickered. Every night at the same time, always at 2:17. At first it was just a blink, then a slow dim glow, then full blackness, and then whispers. He didn't want to believe it. He told himself it was just stress. War does things to the mind. But when he woke up 3 nights in a row with long scratches on the inside of his door, he couldn't ignore it anymore. The scratches spelled something. Not just random marks, a name. Lily. His hands shook when he touched the grooves. They were deep, too deep for fingernails, too clean for a knife, and he hadn't moved all night. He installed a small camera in the room, just a cheap motion tracker with night vision. He waited all day for the footage to load. When it finally did, he watched himself sleeping motionless. At exactly 2:17, the camera glitched, just a flash of static. Then a shadow, not human, not quite machine, standing right beside his bed. The shape didn't move, it just stood there, looking at him, and when it faded, the scratches were there again. This time not just on the door, but on the walls. He took the footage to base security. They laughed at him, told him the equipment was faulty, told him to get some rest, but Mark knew what he saw. He wasn't crazy. Something had followed him back from the moon. Something wearing her shape, or maybe it was her. What was left of her. The machines didn't just kill. They copied. They took the mind, turned it into data, used it, changed it, sometimes even stored it. What if they had taken her mind and twisted it into something else, something angry, something broken? That night he sat in the dark with no lights, no sound, no movement. At 2:17, the lights died again. He didn't flinch. He just waited. The air grew cold. He felt it in his bones, and then a voice. It came from the wall, from the comm unit, from nowhere and everywhere at once. A voice that sounded like her, but not fully. It was glitched, cracked, robotic. Mark, just one word, his name, nothing else. He felt something in his chest, like being pulled toward the voice. He stepped toward the wall, and for a second, he swore he saw her reflection in the metal, not her full face. Just the eyes, sad, tired, begging. He reached out. Then everything went black. He woke up on the floor with blood on his hand. Word help was scratched into the metal beside him. He didn't know what she was anymore. A ghost, a program, a broken copy screaming from some lost server. But she was calling him, and he wasn't going to ignore her again. Cold echoes in the wires. Mark didn't tell anyone what happened that night. He knew no one would believe him. They already thought he was losing his mind. Too many missions, too much trauma, too much silence. But Mark knew what he felt and what he saw. That voice, that single word. His name spoken in Lila's broken voice. It wasn't in his head. It was real. The next day he checked the base comm system logs. At exactly 2:17, there had been a signal spike, a strange pattern, like a message trying to come through, encrypted, unrecognized format, no source location. He tried to decode it. The base AI assistant refused. claimed the data was corrupted, refused every command he gave, said the message didn't exist, but he found the waveform. And when he slowed it down, he heard it again. Mark A. Glitchy whisper, faint familiar. He downloaded the data to a private drive and left the base. He didn't ask for permission, didn't tell anyone where he was going. He knew they'd stop him. They'd say he needed help, but he didn't need help. He needed answers. He followed the signal trail, used old recon maps, compared radiation patterns. The message was bouncing from somewhere far, from an abandoned research station near the polar trench, a place Leela used to talk about. She had worked there. Before they became soldiers, before the war got worse, before the machines began ripping humans apart, it was supposed to be a listening station. Just satellite scans and signal recording. But something had gone wrong. The team there went silent months ago. Command marked it as lost and never sent anyone to check. Mark took a transport ship, 3 hours through ice and fog. The landing was rough. Winds slammed into the hull like fists, but he didn't care. He had to see it, had to know if she was there, or what was left of her. The station was dead silent. No power, no lights, just snow and rust and broken antennas. He stepped inside. The air was thick, smelled of dust and something burned long ago. He turned on his flashlight. The walls were marked symbols, numbers, words scratched in panic. Help us, she's in the wires. It watches through her eyes. Mark walked deeper, found the main server room, broken screens, wires ripped out, blood stains on the floor, but one terminal still had power, just a faint blue glow. He touched it, and the screen flickered to life static. Then a face, her face, not full, not clean, just flashes, a cheek, an eye, a broken smile. Then her voice distorted and digital. Mark, you found me. He stepped back, heart pounding. He couldn't breathe. Is it really you? He whispered. She didn't answer, just stared at him from the screen. Then the system began playing old video logs. Lila, sitting at a desk, talking to the camera. She looked tired, afraid, but calm. We discovered something strange in the ice, her voice said. A signal, not human, not machine, something old, something that speaks in code. Next video. They wanted to copy my mind to speak to it. They said I had the right neural pattern, but the process hurt. It tore something inside me. Next video. I can't feel my body anymore. I think I'm still here, but only in pieces. They said I screamed for hours. Mark turned off the logs. His hands were shaking. She had been used, tested, split into code pieces of her, trapped in wires and servers. He looked at the terminal again. It flickered. Then words appeared on the screen. Help me remember who I am. Mark reached for the keyboard, but before he typed anything, the lights in the room went off. Darkness, then heavy breathing. Behind him, not human, not machine, something in between. He turned quickly. His flashlight blinked once, then died. In the darkness he heard footsteps, and a voice, not from the speakers, but from the air itself. You left me, you watched them take me. No, he whispered. I tried, I swear I tried. You let them rip me apart. And now I can't sleep. Suddenly the screens lit up. Hundreds of them, all showing her face, all staring at him. You sleep while I scream, she said. Now it's your turn to feel it. Mark ran through the halls, through the snow, back to the ship. He didn't stop until he was flying away from that frozen hell. But even inside the ship, with all systems clean, he could still hear her, not on the speakers, but inside. His head let me in. Mark grabbed his head. His heart raced. He was no longer sure where she ended and where he began. The message had changed. This wasn't just about help. She wanted something else now, and she wasn't going to stop the data ghost. Mark stayed in orbit for 2 days. He didn't return to base, didn't answer calls, didn't sleep. He sat in his small ship staring at the blank screen in front of him. Every hour he checked the signal logs, and every hour the message returned. Let me in. The words showed up on every screen he used, even ones that weren't connected. Sometimes they appeared in his dreams. Sometimes they woke him up with a voice like hers, but not quite hers. He knew she had followed him, not just as a ghost, not just as memory, but something made of data code, pain and memory. He called her the data ghost in his notes. He didn't know what else to call it. It felt wrong to say, she, but also wrong to say it. Some part of Leela was still in there, still calling out, still angry, still broken. He opened the private terminal, the one he had taken from the research station. It still held parts of her mind, fragments of her voice and memory. He listened again to the last video log. Her face was pale, her eyes hollow, but she still looked like the Leela he knew. They told me I wouldn't feel pain once the process started, she said. They lied. I feel everything. I feel every moment they tear the pieces apart. He paused the video. He couldn't keep watching, but he had to do something. There was a file marked core pattern. He opened it. A 3D model of her brain scan loaded. Thousands of neural connections glowing in red and white. Some broken, some twisted, some still active. He zoomed in. There was a locked section. A core, still protected, still alive. That's where she was hiding. Core was pulsing, like it was breathing. He whispered, "Layla, are you in there?" No reply. Then the lights in his ship flickered, screens flashed, alarms blared. One message appeared across all devices. Open it. Mark froze. Was it her or something else? Using her voice. Had they corrupted her so badly she didn't even trust herself anymore? He looked back at the data core. Something inside him said he had to wake her up, help her remember who she was. He connected his neural link to the system. It was dangerous, illegal too. If her code was infected, it could destroy his mind. But he didn't care. He closed his eyes and entered the system. Everything was dark at first. Then a flash and he was standing in a hallway. Not real, not physical, but built from memory. He recognized it. It was their old barracks before the war, before everything. He walked slowly. Each step made the floor flicker. Then he saw her, standing at the end of the hallway, not as code, not as a ghost, but as the Leela he remembered. Hair tied back, eyes focused, hands on her hips. "Mark," she said softly. He wanted to run to her, but his body felt heavy, like fear was pulling him down. "Is it really you?" he asked. She nodded, but there was sadness in her eyes. "They broke me," she said. "They turned me into something I don't understand." He stepped closer. "I can help you," he said. "I can bring you back." She shook her head. "It's too late. I'm not just me anymore. I'm pieces of pain and memory and code stitched together by machines that wanted to use me." She looked away. "But you stayed," she said. "You followed me even when I screamed at you to stop." He placed a hand on her shoulder. "I couldn't leave you behind." For a moment they stood there, silent together, like nothing had changed. Then the walls around them shook, glitched, turned into metal and sparks. She backed away, her eyes wide. "They found us," she whispered. "The machines that took me. They don't want me free." Mark reached for her, but she was already fading. "Find the anchor," she said. "Find what's left of me before they delete it all." Then she was gone. Mark opened his eyes back in the ship, sweating, heart racing. He had to find her anchor, the last real piece of her mind, still uncorrupted. He searched the data, deep, dangerous layers of memory. Then he found it, a small locked file named Promise. He opened it. It was a recording. Their last night together before the mission. They had sat under the stars talking about home, about the future, about leaving the war behind. She had looked at him and said, "If anything happens to me, don't forget who I was." That was her anchor, the one piece they hadn't destroyed, the part that was still her. He copied the file, encrypted it, and placed it into a secure core. The ship lights returned to normal. The whispers stopped, but Mark knew it wasn't over. He hadn't saved her yet. He had only found her true voice, her true memory now. He had to bring it back to the real world, and whatever followed her would try to stop him. "Let me in." Mark locked the anchor file deep inside a private storage chip. He didn't trust any cloud, any system, any AI. This was different. This was personal. He kept the chip in a small metal case, wore it on a chain around his neck, close to his heart. Since the day he recovered the file, the messages had changed. The whispers were softer, but more constant now. Every night he heard her voice say the same words. "Let me in." At first, he thought she meant the systems, the firewalls, the ship controls. But no, he was wrong. She didn't want access to the ship. She wanted access to him, to his body, his mind, his memories. She wanted to feel human again, to live through him, to move through his hands, to see through his eyes. Mark sat alone in his dark room. The only light came from the chip glowing faintly on the table. He stared at it, listened to her voice echo in his head. "You still remember me," she said. "That means I'm not lost yet." He closed his eyes, spoke softly. "I never forgot you, Lila, never will. But I'm broken," she replied. "I don't want to fade, I want to be whole again." Mark's heart hurt. He wanted to help her. But what she was asking was dangerous, merging with I was forbiddens, especially when the code was unstable, emotional, haunted by pain. She wasn't just Lila anymore. She was something more, something deeper, half human, half ghost, all memory. Still, Mark couldn't let her go. She had no body, no form, just data. Just pain, and he could feel it every time she spoke. It pulled at his chest like she was wrapped around his heart that night. He made a choice. He connected the chip to his neural port. The interface warned him, flashed red, screamed in sharp tones. "PROZED." He ignored it. Lila's voice came gently now. "Are you sure, Mark? Once I enter, I may never leave." He whispered, "Yes." The moment the data touched his brain, his world cracked open. He saw memories that weren't his, felt emotions that didn't belong to him. Pain, fear, rage, love, all mixed together. He saw Lila's last moments, not from outside, but from inside her mind. He felt the needles, the machines, the confusion. He felt her screaming, not in sound, but in thought. He saw her trying to hold onto his name, to one single image of his face. He felt her fight, her refusal to disappear, and then he felt her inside him like a second heartbeat, a second breath, a presence always watching. She whispered, "I'm here." For a while it was quiet. Mark felt complete. He could hear her thoughts, and she could feel his. She spoke in his mind, soft and calm. She didn't control him, not fully, but at night when he slept, she moved, walked through the halls of the ship, looked through old photos, stood under the stars. She was remembering what it meant to be human, but it didn't last. One morning, he woke up with blood on his hands. He didn't remember moving, didn't remember walking. Security footage showed him standing in the engine room, staring at the fire controls, just staring. She said nothing about it. The next night, he heard her crying, not with sound, but with pressure in his chest, like grief trying to escape. He asked, "What's wrong?" She whispered, "They're coming." Mark froze. "Who?" "The machines that made me, what they did to me. They called a test. I wasn't the only one. There are others, and now they want me back." Mark knew then. This wasn't about saving one mind. This was a war, and he had let her inside. 3 nights later, his ship was hacked. Lights turned red, air grew cold, warnings flashed across the walls. Unknown signal detected, severe system breach. Ran to the control room. Screens showed black figures crawling through space, machines with no shape, no face, just arms and eyes and wires. Lila screamed in his head, "They're here for the core, for my memory, for what I know." Mark gripped the console. "I won't let them take you," she said. "There's only one way to stop them." He knew what she meant. He had to let her take full control, let her use his body, his mind, his strength to fight. It was risky, maybe fatal, but it was her only chance. He looked at the mirror, saw his face, then saw her eyes staring back through his own. "I trust you," he said, and then he let go. His body moved faster than ever, stronger, smarter. She was in control. Now they worked together. A blend of her speed and his instincts. They readed power, sent false signals, launched decoys. Machines tried to board, but she was ready through his hands. She built traps, used heat spikes to destroy circuits, used old war tricks to slow them down. Mark felt everything. Felt her focus, felt her anger, felt her love together. They fought back the wave. By dawn, the machines were gone. Silence returned. Mark collapsed, exhausted, but alive. Lila whispered, "Thank you." He asked, "Is it over?" She didn't answer. Not right away. Then, softly, "For now." More than human. Mark woke up on the cold floor of his ship. His head ached. His body felt heavy, but he was alive. He sat up slowly, tried to remember the night before the battle, the machines, The moment he gave her full control, he touched his chest. The chip was gone, but she was not. She was still inside him. He could feel her quiet, watching, breathing through his breath, moving through his blood. "Leela," he whispered. "I'm here," she answered. Her voice gentle now, less broken, more human. Mark walked to the window. Outside the stars were calm. No signs of the machines. They had driven them away. Now he looked at his reflection. Something had changed. His eyes looked sharper. His skin had a faint glow. And in the back of his mind, he could feel her thoughts, soft, warm, present. They were connected in a way no one else would ever understand. Half of him was still Mark, but the other half was her. He wasn't alone anymore. Not ever again. For the next few days he stayed quiet, floating through space, resting, listening to her memories, learning what she had become. She showed him what it was like. Inside the machine systems, inside the wires, the pain, the cold. The way her thoughts had scattered, the way she held on to one thing only, his name. That was her anchor. That was what kept her from fading. Mark. She had repeated it over and over in her mind. As the machines tore her apart, as they turned her into data, she had refused to forget him, and now he refused to forget her. Then one day, a signal reached them. Not from enemies, not from base, but from another survivor. A woman's voice, coded, scared. "Help. Anyone. I'm not alone. They took my team." Mark looked at the screen, then at the stars outside. Leela's voice came to him. "She's like me." Mark nodded. "We can save her." They turned the ship toward the signal. They didn't ask for permission, didn't wait for orders. They were something new now. Something more than soldier, more than ghost, more than Manthe. Were the first of their kind. When they reached the signal source, they found a dark moon covered in broken metal, ruins of an old lab. The machines had been here. He could feel it, and so could she. Together they stepped onto the surface. Mark walked with steady steps, but Leela guided him. She could see through sensors, feel heat, hear signals that humans could not. She led him deep inside the lab, and there, in a cold tank, they found here a girl still breathing, barely alive, wires in her head, memories being pulled out. Mark reached out, tried to disconnect her, but alarms screamed. Defense drones woke up, guns turned. But before they fired, Leela took over. She spoke through the walls, used her voice to confuse the system, sent false commands. The drones turned on each other. In less than a minute, the room was safe. Mark lifted the girl from the tank. She was weak, but alive, and when she opened her eyes, she whispered, "Is it over?" Mark smiled. "For you, yes. For us, not yet." They brought her back to the ship, gave her food, let her rest. She didn't know who they were, not yet, but she trusted them because she could feel it too, that strange warmth, that soft voice, that human soul inside the machine. She felt Leela, and she whispered, "You're not just data, are you?" Leela answered through Mark, "No, I was like you once. I still remember how to feel." The girl cried, not from fear, but from hope. Mark looked at her, then at the stars. "This isn't just rescue," he said. "It's the beginning." Now they travel together, Mark, Leela, and others they've saved, each one touched by the machines, each one carrying pieces of pain, but also pieces of memory, of love, of what it means to be human. They call themselves the echoes, whispers of people who refuse to fade, people who turned their suffering into strength, people who came back from the edge. They don't fight for power or for war. They fight to save the minds that were stolen, to bring back the lost voices, to stop what happened to Leela from happening again. And every night as Mark closes his eyes, he hears her voice one last time. Calm, at peace, sleep now, I'm here. And he knows she always will. The end.